Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our information session about the Master of Legal Studies program at UCLA School of Law. So I'm Mary Puzikowski. I'm Assistant Director of Graduate Studies. I'm also joined by Executive Director of the M.L.S program, Jason Fisk. I will turn it over to him soon, and he will introduce you to our two incredible students that have joined us today for our full-time student panel. It's my favorite type of information session because you get to hear directly from the students about their current experience, why they chose the M.L.S program, and kind of the connections they've already made. So with the full-time option, you can complete the degree in 9 months, so 2 semesters, fall, spring. It's usually the cohort is made up of recent graduates, international students who are on F1 visas, and some professionals who are able to take a sabbatical. So they make up our full-time cohort. We also have some student athletes who also choose to undertake the full-time option. Great option for these types of students. If you do enjoy hearing from our students today, then please connect with us on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We like to spotlight our current students and graduates and all the good stuff that they're doing. So we also post information about upcoming events such as information sessions. So feel free to connect with us at UCLA Law MLS. And then that's all from me. So I'm now going to turn it over to Executive Director Jason Fisk and our lovely student panel. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. And before we introduced a couple different students, we'll mention that if you are interested also in hearing about the part-time program, we'll have a panel on that tomorrow for it that you can register for. Additionally, the application deadline coming up is April 25th, and so that's the upcoming application deadline for everyone, which gives you plenty of time at this point to work on and complete it by that time. We are currently on rolling admissions, and so if that makes it nicer if you do apply earlier, because then it will be sent right to the admissions committee. You don't have to, it won't be held until the end. So without further ado, with me today is Natalie Dunn and John Deutsch, who are 2 students in our full-time program. And Mary mentioned the kind of types of students who do our full-time program, the 3 being those on a sabbatical, those who are somewhat recent out of undergraduate, and those who are on F1 visas. So here today are representing 2 of those 3 categories, with Natalie coming to this program out of her undergraduate, and John being in the sabbatical category, I suppose, as far as that's concerned. So if you listening today are in one of those categories, then here they are for you to ask any questions. At any point, if you have questions, go ahead and throw those questions into the Q&A box at the bottom right on your screen on the Zoom, and we'll be happy to get to those questions at the end of the presentation today. And otherwise, thanks for coming and sharing the time. So without further ado, I'll start with Natalie. Natalie, if you could share with you why, your background, who you are, and why did you choose to do this program?
Yeah, so I am a double Bruin. So I recently graduated UCLA spring of 2021, so just last year. I graduated with a psychology degree, and during my time in undergrad, I was kind of going between, do I want to be a psychiatrist or do I want to go into HR? So I took the only HR class that you can take at undergrad UCLA, which is an industrial organizational psychology class. And I really fell in love with it. And I was like, okay, I want to learn more about HR. I want to get into it. So I helped start one of the first HR clubs at UCLA that's affiliated with SHRM. And through that, I also was able to get an internship this past summer with Gilead Sciences, where I was an HRBP intern. And this program I really wanted to do because I wanted to think like a lawyer and be able to read like a lawyer and problem solve like a lawyer. And I've been able to take classes in employment discrimination, employment law, and I've learned so much that I don't think I would have been able to learn in the field directly. And so, yeah, so it's been great so far.
Thanks, Natalie. And same questions as you, John.
Sure. Hi, everybody. I went to undergrad a little bit longer ago and then came out to LA and got my master's in film and television production, and was sort of a journeyman in the entertainment industry for about 10 years, writing, directing, a lot of comedy stuff. I ran for my neighborhood council here in the Los Feliz neighborhood of Los Angeles and got involved in community organizing and really fell in love with it, and left entertainment behind and went into the homeless services industry. And I spent 2 years basically connecting folks experiencing housing insecurity with landlords, and sort of working in a field as sort of a catch-all fixer for folks experiencing homelessness. But one of the things I discovered in both that, in the community organizing and in the homeless work, was we were constantly running into the law, whether it was litigation. I became president of our neighborhood council on a Tuesday. We got sued by the local paper on a Friday. Or in homelessness. A lot of times the decisions that we were making out in the field were being determined by lawsuits and injunctions. So in both of those lines of work, I found myself reading legal briefs, reading judicial decisions, reading proposed legislation and ordinances. And when this opportunity came up, I thought it would be a fantastic chance to really hone those skills that I found were so necessary in all of the things I wanted to do in my life. And I did a little bit of research into the program. When I was younger, it was between law school and film school. I chose film school, and I don't regret that choice, especially because now I get to go to law school and learn, but with all the perspective that I have from the last 10 or 15 years in the real world, and with a much better idea of how I want to take what I'm learning and put it to good use. And Natalie has become one of my best friends in the program, and we've gone through several of the classes together, and I'm excited that she's here today too.
All right, thanks, John. So now let's talk about the classes that you will be taking, and that both Natalie and John have taken and are taking. So both at this juncture in time, both of them are in the second, midway through or so, the second semester of their final semester here in the program. But so tell me about the classes and your experience in them, kind of generally. How have you found them? What's the format like for some of your classes? And just kind of talk me through your experience in the classes, starting with Natalie.
Yeah, so first semester we took private law and we took public law, and we took a legal analysis class. And private law and public law are like the very basic ones. You get like a very standard, like, what does private law encompass? There's torts and contract law, and then public is everything else. And they're both super interesting. They're both like case heavy. So you're reading cases before classes, and it's a little daunting at first, but you get really used to reading cases and it's really fun. The legal analysis class, John and I both had a great time in that class because you get to apply all of these cases that you've been learning about to writing that you might be doing in your job. And so that was really exciting. And it's nice to be able to apply what you've learned, because that's what you're going to be doing in the field. And then I took another class. I took employment discrimination. I was the one M.L.S student in that class. Everyone else was a JD student. I was super nervous at first, but it was actually such a cool experience because I get to learn from these other JD students who are going to be lawyers. I get to see like how they think, because at some point I'll be an HR representative and I'll be working with a lawyer. So now I know like their side, how they think. And that was an amazing class. And this quarter I'm taking business law, and I'm also taking employment law, and both are very different and also like somewhat case heavy, but I think more so the first semester was case heavy for readings. I'm also taking regulatory compliance. What's nice about that is that's also more of like an applied law class. We look at like case studies of like the WorldCom and Theranos and the scandals that have happened with them and how regulatory compliance programs could help. So that's also very related to HR. So far, all of the professors are amazing. They have office hours. You can go to them. You can schedule office hours, and they have so much experience, and you can ask them questions, and it's been fantastic.
Just going off of what Natalie said. Private law and public law are very much your sort of crash course in the general law area. And though I'm sure this might change a little bit, there's reading, there's classroom discussion, and quizzes, and a final exam for both. So not as much writing, not as many homework assignments. So you can kind of pace yourself as long as you know when your quizzes are, when your midterm is. There's a lot of studying. If you don't do a little bit of work, you might be caught off guard when it comes to the end of the semester. I think one of the real advantages of taking the program full time, as Natalie and I did, was taking that legal writing and analysis class in the first semester, because you, as she mentioned, you read a lot of the same cases in a lot of the different classes. But in legal writing and analysis, you're really getting into the nuts and bolts of these cases, and you're learning not just how to memorize them, but how to synthesize different things from different cases and how to write. And I think we both found that taking that course first semester really helped us with all the rest of the courses that we were taking. And I personally really enjoyed that class, just because it's actually sort of the closest thing you get to like almost feeling like, oh, I'm writing a brief, I'm writing a note, I'm and like Natalie says, it instantly applies to what you're doing in the rest of your life. First semester, I took a JD course in health law and policy. I was also the only M.L.S student in the class. And one of the things that I've found is that professors love M.L.S students, because most of the law students are a little bit younger and, in their mid to early 20s. And the M.L.S students come into it with some real life experience and a different perspective. And a lot of these law professors aren't necessarily used to having somebody in the class who knows so much about a subject matter, or maybe can bring a different perspective to it. And like Natalie, I walked in at first a little bit intimidated. And then I found that I had to take a step back because I was participating more than any of the other JD students. And that was a fascinating class. It had a policy element as well as a law element. I took what's called a J-term class. There's a short January term where you can take basically a 2 or 3 credit class in 2 weeks. And I did one in basically tenants' rights and eviction law. And now I'm taking 3 courses, business law with Natalie. I'm taking administrative law, and I'm taking a seminar, which will be my capstone project in housing segregation. So business law is very much like public-private. It's the same sort of, we just had our midterm, which is sort of a multiple choice test. Administrative law will be a final. And then for the seminar class, I'm working on a 25 to 30 page paper that is sort of part research, part law, focusing on housing vouchers and rental subsidies in Los Angeles County. And that's a course where, it's a 500 level course, a lot of reading, got to come to class prepared to discuss, but really fantastic. And I'll be working. I have my first draft due on Friday. So as soon as I'm done with this, back to the books.
Very nice, very nice. So there's a quick question here about the legal analysis class, and the question basically is, what are the assignments like in that class, and kind of what are the like page limitations of kind of what you wrote and that kind of thing? Can either of you kind of talk to that?
Yeah, sure. And Natalie, correct me if I remember this all correctly. There are 3 big assignments. The first one, you're essentially writing a legal memo as a lawyer. The next one, what is the next one? The last one, you're writing a research memo. You basically write like a legal memo. Natalie, what was the second one?
It was a letter, I think, a letter to an attorney.
A letter to an attorney, and then by the end, you're writing another letter to an attorney. So you start off almost writing like a lawyer, but then you finish learning how to speak lawyer to non-lawyers, because that's sort of going to be what one of your hardest jobs is. The assignments are all about 5 to 7 pages. Usually you have somewhere between 3 and 5 cases that you're bringing in. And the cases vary from maybe 7 to 10 pages each. In the beginning of the course, you're given the cases, here are 5 or 6 cases, incorporate them into the memo. But by the end, you're expected to go out and do your own research and find those cases. But you do work in groups. Natalie and I were in the same sort of breakout groups. So we learned how to use things like LexisNexis and Westlaw, and we compared notes on which cases we were going to use. It is definitely, I don't want to say time consuming, but it will consume more time than the other courses, just because you do have to sit down and plot things out and write things, and there are drafts and feedback. And then also there is, and several classes have this, a message board where students are encouraged throughout the semester to talk about the cases. And that's really sort of informal, and it's really just meant to sort of like spur discussion. So Natalie might go on and say, oh, what I found interesting about this case was X, Y, and Z. And I say, yeah, but did you consider A, B, and C? And then that will come back to the classroom discussion. And yeah, I think that's what I remember.
Yeah, no, that is how it is. And it's nice because there is a discussion section. So you have it was on Monday for us. We had it with everybody. And then there's 2 discussion sections that you have on Wednesday. So it's a smaller group that you get to discuss. And so we were able to discuss the cases and kind of figure out like which way to go. And the professors are really, really helpful in that class. Like I met with the discussion section professor probably after every single paper or before every single paper, just to be like, am I going the right way? And she was really helpful with suggestions. And just like John said, we use LexisNexis and Westlaw, and it's these amazing databases that you only get access to if like you're a lawyer or if your company has access to them, or if you're at this program or if you're at a law program. And it makes it so easy to navigate the law and the cases. And so it was just very, very interesting to learn that. And it'll help you a lot with your capstone because you're going to do a lot of research for your capstone.
All right, very good. One thing I will mention in the conversation of classes is our program has 8 specializations to choose from. And so Natalie is in our employment and human resources specialization, and John is in our public interest specialization. But a lot of our other popular specializations include business law, entertainment law, law and technology, and health, and government national security. So the environmental law, those are our other specializations as well. Great, so that's our discussion about the classes specifically. Let's now shift gears and talk a bit about a community, and the kind of talk to me about your experience with the community, whether that be specific to the Master of Legal Studies or more broadly, and what that kind of looks like. Let's start with John.
Sure. The community is one of the things, I wasn't expecting to find such a wonderful community here, but I did, and very quickly, and it's one of the real, I think, selling points of the program. Not only was it fantastic sort of as we lumber out of the pandemic to meet new people, but I can't think of another opportunity where you're going to meet so many people from different backgrounds, different experiences, who are all there to learn the same thing. And that's what's so cool about it, is that you're going to be sitting maybe next to a doctor and a social worker or a sports agent, or somebody who comes from the entertainment world, or somebody who comes from the engineering world. And I remember somebody put this, Christina, somebody put this like the first week. She said, I've never been around so many problem solvers, which I thought was a really, really good way of describing what the attitude, what the folks are like there. I have really looked forward to coming to class because I get to see my friends. I get to talk about not only what we're doing in class, but things that are happening in the world. It's a very interesting time to be in law school, certainly. Not that there's a boring time. And these are folks that I now see outside of class. We've gone to some UCLA football games, some basketball games. We study together. I've made some very interesting connections, I think, that'll help me in my future career paths, but also people who I would never run into in the normal course of my life. And like I said, Natalie's one of my best friends. Sometimes I'll drive her home, and I just love seeing her. And it's really cool, especially for somebody who's been out of school a little bit. And it's different from it's different from work friends. It's different from undergrad friends. You're there really for the same purpose, and it's very supportive. And it's really, I think, one of the highlights of the program for sure.
Thanks, John. Natalie.
I don't know if I could say it any better than that. I mean, it is, everything that he said is true. Yeah, so I live right off campus, and I always have people offering to give me a drive home because it's late classes, which is always so nice. But yeah, everybody's so nice, and they have different backgrounds, and so you get to learn so much from them. And UCLA in general is just an amazing place to be. I'm a double Bruin, so obviously I love UCLA. The campus is beautiful. There's so many spots to eat and meet people, and the law library is amazing. And we also have dinners almost every other Tuesday night. And so you get to network with different people that you might not have classes with. And so that's always super fascinating. It was the last dinner a couple weeks ago, maybe a month ago. I was talking to one of the students, And I was saying like, oh, I'm looking for a job after graduation. And he was like, oh, well, come talk to me and I can help you get into my startup. So there's just so many amazing opportunities with networking with everyone that's in this program.
I'd also say, yeah, and community also includes the professors. I feel like I think Natalie and I are the same, is that almost we've had a coffee or a lunch at, during classes, after classes, with almost every professor that we've had. And, they have so much experience, recommendations. They've been incredibly helpful in not only figuring out the coursework, but how it can apply to our lives. Natalie, I think I told you I had like a awesome hour with Meryl the other day. And I was like, you are the current class as good as us? Are they writing as well as we did? She wouldn't say, but.
Love it. So now let's talk a moment now about opportunity. And so Natalie, you kind of touched on this a bit, but what kind of opportunities does a program like this at UCLA and at the law school here kind of bring that might not otherwise be there? So John, you touched on this a bit too, as far as meeting people, but elaborate on this a little bit. We'll start with Natalie.
Yeah, I actually have a great example. I've been recruiting for positions after graduation, and I was going to have a phone call with a company talking about salary expectations. And so in my employment law class, there's a mix of JD students and a lot of the HR specialist M.L.S. students that I'm friends with and I sit next to. And so I was asking one of them, I was like, how do I navigate this issue? And so she was helping me with that. And then everybody else around the classroom was helping me with it because they love employment law and they love HR. And so everyone, the JD students, the professor, they were like, oh, they have to give you the base and the top of the salary because that's the law, they have to. And just giving me advice with interviewing. And it was 10 people that was helping me with it. So, I mean, that's just one great example of how they can help you. Just networking and talking to the students, I'll be like, oh, I'm worried about such and such. I'm trying to navigate recruiting. And then I'll get an email from them and be like, hey, I'm connecting you to my friend, or, hey, I can read your resume. So this has happened throughout the entire course of this year. And I would not have gotten this help otherwise. And it's been very, very valuable because these are people that are in HR right now and have been in HR for 3-4 years. So it's really valuable help.
Yeah, the one of the cool things, as I mentioned, is that you meet so many people from so many different backgrounds, and it might not be evident at first how they could connect to what you're interested in. But it can be really interesting about how things can sort of come full circle. And one of the great things about having so many students with so much experience is that a lot of folks there have had a career or two. And, you might be I switched from entertainment sort of the public interest. There are some people going the opposite way. And you get to sort of share notes and compare strategies, not only on how to survive the job market, but how to survive the world, the real world, with the subject matter that you're facing. It can be, daunting to delve into a new area of study, but there's going to be somebody there who understands the things that you don't understand, and vice versa. I know for one of my study groups, for example, I was very good in public law, and I found somebody who was very good in private law, and I know that material so much better now for having studied with that person. And the same thing too with the professors. I've had a lot of professors. I'm on sabbatical, sort of in between things. And I kind of know the general direction I want to go with my career, but the professors have been extraordinarily helpful in helping me sort of refine that, because they've been out in the world and they know people, and they'll say, well, have you considered maybe this field, or talking to somebody here, or maybe I can, give you a few email addresses. And that's been fantastically helpful. It really feels like a holistic experience. And, as somebody who went to an art school, this feels far more like a sort of total person immersion, kind of I'm going to come out of this not with just a degree, but a better human being with a really individualized education than that program ever did.
All right, thank you very much. So as far as the last question topic here, there's a lot of people who are here today and also will be watching this recording that are considering if they should apply for this program and start this August in our full-time program. What kind of tips do you have for them in making that consideration of if they should start this program, and what are some of the things they should be thinking about? And we'll start with you, Natalie.
Yeah, I know for me, like I was with HR, you can do a couple of things. You can do an IO psychology master's, you can get an MBA, or you can do this, which is new and exciting. And not a lot of people like have knowledge of the law that are in HR. There's only a couple of people that I've met that go from lawyer to HR, but it's just not super common. So I think it's just a really valuable skill to have and be able to think like a lawyer and research like a lawyer and understand the law, because it's in everything. And I think that like I'm so glad that I did this. I also think that when thinking about if you want to do this, you should definitely read over the cases and just kind of like understand the law and be like, is this going to be valuable to my job? Because I think it's going to be so valuable to my job. So yeah.
One of the fantastic things about the program is you can go and find the professors. You can go see past course schedules. You can probably come across some syllabi. And I think before I even applied to a program, my father is an attorney. And so we sat down and looked at the program, and he said, oh yeah, this is legit. I know that guy. Oh yeah, I think I went to school with that guy. So even before you apply, you can get a sense of what the program's like, what sort of courses you might want to take. I found that to be tremendously exciting. It's work. It is work. I think that's something that Natalie and I both really enjoy about the program, is that, it's law school. You're taking law classes with law students. So, don't expect this to be just sort of like a summer course, because it will be intense. And, that's part of the whole full-time, part-time consideration. I personally think that spending the time being deep in the study and not having to worry about some of the other things in my life is really the way that I wanted it. It's really working out well for me. I can't believe it's almost over. That's like, what? Can I come back? So, it's really a fantastic program. And one of the cool things about it being sort of new is that the school is incredibly heavily involved in our success. I've been at very few institutions. This will be my third degree. And like I said, at my other institutions, I never felt sort of the level of care and individualized concern that I've had from the faculty and staff at UCLA Law. And that's just so empowering because, it's a new degree. But I know that when people ask me, hey, what is that? And every time within a sentence or two, their eyes sort of open up, they go, oh my God, that's so cool. I wish I had done that. You're such a catch. Please come in for an interview. So it's really awesome. And like, I heartily encourage you during the application process to go look at who the professors are, what they teach, what their backgrounds are, see if you can't get your hands maybe on some syllabi and what the tests are like. And that'll give you a really good sense of what the program's like. And for me, it got me super excited to join. And I would say also that Professor Fisk and Mary, that there's if you have any question before, during, after the application process, I had a lot of questions and they were always there to answer them. And it really helped me throughout the process of not only applying, but determining if I wanted to apply. So yeah, they're great resources.
All right. Well, thank you so much again for coming, everyone. And thank you, John and Natalie, for taking the time.